Even in real life, you can't go back very far before it becomes impossible to say what really happened.
What did you eat for breakfast this morning? What about exactly 6 days ago? What about 3 years and 2 months ago? What about on February 27th, 1996?
What about the first thing that ever happened? Who was there? What exactly went down? It really is tough to say with any certainty, and when you cross into a fictional game world and start asking the same questions, it gets even muddier.
Here on the Dex, we cover trivia and strategy for a different Pokemon each week. And since it's a new year and a fresh start, we figured we'd start at the very beginning. I'm PokeKellz.
And I'm Lore Keeper Alex. This week, we're finally tackling Arceus, and man, are we ever digging deep.
But first, we have a little matter to settle.
There have been 3 pronunciations of Arceus used in Pokemon-related material. Let's put this baby to bed.
You may notice that the pronunciation Alex and I use is the pronunciation from Pokemon Battle Revolution, Arceus.
Arceus is sent out.
Yeah, and we're going to continue doing so no matter what you say, so don't worry about correcting us. Also, House MD says it this way, and that's cool.
And it's kind of hard to gas a guy unless you can seal him in a room first.
Which is why Arceus created a universe with 3 states of matter.
Arceus?
Look it up.
The second pronunciation apparently comes from a promotional trailer for Arceus and the Jewel of Life, in which the announcer says Arceus, but we literally couldn't find evidence of it, so it's hard to say for sure.
However, this is a valid pronunciation based off the Japanese katakana symbols of his name, Aruseusu. So you know, Arceus in English.
Finally, in a Pokemon.com mailbag, it was confirmed that the current official pronunciation is Arceus. This is corroborated by the Pokedex 3D Pro as well.
Arceus! Normal type!
So that seems to be that, but it wasn't always the case. According to Tom Wayland, a voice actor for the English dubs of various Pokemon titles, it was originally one of the first 2, but due to concerns in English-speaking countries of the first syllable sounding like arse, like, you know, bottom, booty, butt, they changed it. Even though in Japanese, it's still the same.
So what's the final answer?
Really, it's just pronounce it however it feels comfortable, man. Stay groovy, relax, and remember, Pokemon rules all the time.
Well, I feel better, and I hope you all do too. Now, let's get into the meat of this thing.
Right. So there's this Shinto god named Damenami Nakanushi, whose name translates to heavenly ancestral god of the originating heart of the universe. Not quite as to the point as the alpha Pokemon, but I'm definitely detecting some Arceus in there.
According to Shintoism, he came into being alone and created the universe just like Arceus. And even crazier, he's said to have summoned the deities Izanami and Izanagi with a spear to create Japan. Spear pillar anyone? Dialga and Palkia? Isn't that neat?
Sure is, but Arceus also draws inspiration from a number of other universe creators like Pangu of Chinese myth or the Christian god, and there are also ties to Avalokitesvara, the 1,000-armed deity from Buddhism, or Egyptian cap gods like Apis, god of strength.
Yeah, and the arcing wheel around his midsection has ties to the Hindu arc of reincarnation. He's a melting pot of all the world's religions, really. Almost like he just sort of represents the Pokemon world equivalent of whatever you believe in. What?
I mean, like, that's a nice message of religious harmony, but what the heck is his actual deal? Like, what is his real story?
Well, like we were saying earlier, nobody really knows.
Oh.
But that doesn't stop us from using the facts we do have to put together an educated guess. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for that Legendaries only segment, the Pokemon creation myth. It's it.
Oh, there we go. Now I can sleep at night.
So, before the universe existed, an egg appeared from nothingness. Arceus hatched out of it and shaped the world. But what does shape the world mean exactly?
Well, let's look at what we already know. First, Arceus created Dialga to control time, Palkia to control space, and Giratina to control antimatter, which I'm not even going to try to get into here.
It was actually these 3 that physically made the world under Arceus' leadership, and at some point, Giratina was corrupted by the Grizius orb and sort of became the Pokemon analog of Satan. But that's a story for later. And suffice to say, Arceus eventually got it under control.
From there, Arceus created Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, who uphold knowledge, emotion, and willpower as the laws of the universe, in order to provide a template for the actions of all living creatures to come after them.
From here, things get a little more speculative, but we can probably assume that just like he did with the Lake Trio, Arceus created a bunch of other legendaries to govern the tasks they're most associated with. Groudon and Kyogre made the land and the sea, Celebi and Shaman created the pure air and the plant life, etc. And then finally, when the planet was finished, Arceus created Mew to go forth and populate it with Pokemon.
But something about that doesn't sit right. Didn't we say that Pokemon came from space to help us? And what about the legendary Pokemon, or just like guardians of stuff? What's the deal with that?
Well, long story short, due to recent developments in the Pokemon storyline that we're not about to spoil here just yet, I think our previous theory was wrong. Plus, the Arceus story seems to imply that Pokemon created the planet, so either it was humans who came from space, or even more likely, humans originally came from another dimension. Ours.
That's nutty, but it kind of makes sense. If we're the newcomers, it would make sense that Arceus made Pokemon Guardians. Humans don't exactly have the best track record with keeping old stuff nice for a long time.
Yeah, and I know you're all thinking to yourselves, but what about the Canalave Library? What about game theory? Humans are Pokemon! Well, we have an answer for that too.
Remember, depending on when we allegedly arrived through the dimensional portal, our proto-human ancestors might have seemed much more Pokemon-like at first, and growing up alongside another dominant sentient species isn't really something we have an anthropological model for. You know how biased and idealistic oral traditions can be?
Was that not the coolest? Dang, Pokemon has so much story potential and it's all so interesting.
Yeah, man!
So what now, battle strategy? What do you mean?
Well, Arceus has base 120 in every stat, and his type changes depending on which plate he's holding, so unless there's enough of a response in the comments for a follow-up strategy episode in the interest of time, I think I'd rather call it here.
Sounds good to me. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know who you want to see next. Support us on Patreon by clicking the link in the description, and Happy New Year! I'm PokeKellz.
And I'm Lorekeeper Alex. Tune in next week for an evil, distorted episode of The Dex.
It was confirmed that the current official pronunciation is Arceus.
Right! So there's this little Shinto god.
He's a melting pot of all the world's religions. Really, almost like, just sort of represents the... I lost it. I lost the line. It was just... and shaped the world. But what exactly does... what the hell? I was doing so good. Sounded like Katara from the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now let's get into the meat of this thing.